The will of D is solved. It's not the will of the Ancient Kingdom. It's not even the will of a specific clan or family from the Ancient Kingdom. No, the will of D is the will of Joyboy's crew, the Dawn Pirates. The first pirate crew ever, the crew that failed in the Void Century War 800 years ago, who left behind the poneglyphs and a will to bring the dawn back to the world centuries in the future. And the descendants of Joyboy's crew, they are the mysterious members of the D tribe that we see today. Throughout the centuries, they have persisted, the lineage of the original Dawn Pirates members. If you plot together all the known members of the D tribe today, this simple answer is what most clearly connects them all. This answers how a giant is a member of the same D lineage as humans. This answers why every D member dies with a smile on their face. This answers why there is an evil lineage that has persisted throughout the centuries among the Ds. And it even answers why the Alabasta Kingdom fought against the Ancient Kingdom during the Void Century, despite Nefertari Lily being a D herself. And most importantly, this gives us a clear picture of what the story of the Void Century will actually be, and why it's set to be a far more interesting tale, filled with far more familiar characters than we ever would have imagined. But before we get into it, are you balding? Or do you maybe have some early signs of male pattern baldness coming in? Well, guess what? It's probably because you don't take good care of your hair or your scalp. Manscaped, the sponsor of this video, is offering my viewers 20% off its new scalp brusher, which is specifically designed to clean your scalp of nasty bacteria and promote better blood flow to your hair follicles. See, a large problem many men have is that they don't realize that even when you shampoo, that doesn't really get out a lot of the germs and bacteria that stick in the bottom of your hair. And on top of that, most men don't really ever exfoliate their scalp, so there's a lot of buildup of dry skin there. And together that makes for a really bad environment for your hair follicles. That's obviously a problem if you want to grow full, luscious, healthy hair. A lot of it just comes down to how well you treat your scalp. That's why Manscaped's Scalp Brusher is a new product that is actually designed to exfoliate your scalp. The thick bristles feel really good and they are 100% antibacterial. This lets you clean out your scalp in a way that's much more thorough than you've ever done before, and on top of that, it promotes better blood flow to your hair follicles. I mean, I'll be honest, when I first started feeling like I was losing my hair, I had to take a pill, finasteride, to make sure that my hair stayed thick and growing. Don't be like me. Don't wait till you need a pill. Be preemptive and start taking care of your scalp and your hair follicles today by using a scalp brusher. And Manscaped is the best on the market. So just go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free international shipping when you use promo code MORGE at checkout. That's 20% off plus free shipping with promo code MORGE at manscaped.com. Link in the description below. So that aside, if we go through all the options for what the Will of D and who the actual D tribe are, all signs point to it having been a crew, specifically Joyboy's crew. To understand why that is, we have to first trace back how the D-Tribe possibilities have slowly narrowed down over time. To begin with, when we first started seeing characters with the initial D in their name, readers assumed that this must be some sort of secret family line that exists in the world of One Piece. After all, carrying a specific middle initial as part of one's name seems like it signifies a familial connection. And early on, this was reinforced by the fact that Luffy's own brother shared the same initial as him, and so did Roger, and these were the only D members that we knew. However, all that changed when we met a giant, Saul, who had the initial D as well. A pure-blooded giant is very clearly not from the same family as the other human D-Tribe members that we've met so far, meaning that the D-Tribe are not all blood-related family. The D-Tribe must mean something else. There must be some other form of connection. So what then about the Ancient Kingdom in general? Just as we meet Saul, we are also introduced to the concept of a vast and powerful ancient kingdom that was erased from history. And look at that, all the poneglyphs and clues that have been left behind in the world are from the ancient kingdom. So after learning this, it now seemed like the will that was being passed down must be from the people of the ancient kingdom in general, and therefore the initial D that certain characters today must also signify the descendants of the people of the ancient kingdom. This would allow Saul being a D to make sense too, as giants could have been part of this kingdom as well. That became the new belief, except no, this also doesn't make sense as soon as you think about it. The problem is that this type of thinking wouldn't work for an entire kingdom. Imagine any other kingdom in One Piece. Imagine if all of Dressrosa was being wiped out by Doflamingo, and then some random citizens of Dressrosa survived and left behind messages for the future. To begin with, can you really imagine a random collection of citizens from Dressrosa all being so special that they would leave behind a lineage of extraordinary individuals like all the D-Tribe members that we see today? Like seriously, every single D-Tribe member that we've seen is an extraordinary person. I mean, they all literally die with a smile on their face when facing death. Remember, in any nation in One Piece, the average citizen is just an average person. A random collection of citizens from a nation wouldn't leave behind a special lineage. And then on top of that, would a random collection of surviving citizens also create an orchestrated series of messages and a prophecy to pass on into the future of the will of their kingdom to be fulfilled centuries down the line? No, I'd say it's very unlikely that a random collection of surviving citizens from the Ancient Kingdom did all this, and that every single citizen from the Ancient Kingdom was just so extraordinary that they each produced an extraordinary lineage of descendants. It's very unlikely that just being a descendant of any random citizen out of the millions of citizens from the Ancient Kingdom makes one a D. What makes a lot more sense is that the Ds were a small, specific, exceptional group of people from the time of the Ancient Kingdom that were able to survive and make a concerted effort to pass on their message to the world in the future, and their descendants are therefore naturally extraordinary people just like them. Note, this does bring us back to the possibility of the D tribe having been a family, maybe even the royal family of the Ancient Kingdom, but that again doesn't work, as remember, Saul being a pure-blooded giant means the D weren't all a blood-related family. So if the D were a special group of individuals from that era, but at the same time not all blood-related, then what was their connection? Now you might be saying, hold on Morge, we don't agree with all of your premises. We still feel like the D could just refer to anyone from the Ancient Kingdom. Maybe every citizen from the Ancient Kingdom that managed to survive was just so extraordinary that they each were able to leave a lineage of centuries of extraordinary descendants just like themselves. And therefore the D initial just means being from the Ancient Kingdom. And to that I say, even if something that absurd was possible, that theory immediately dies with the reveal that Nefertari Lily was a D, because Nefertari Lily was explicitly not part of the Ancient Kingdom. She was from Alabasta, which was explicitly one of the kingdoms that allied against the Ancient Kingdom. It's not even as though Lily was a citizen born into the Ancient Kingdom and then she left the Ancient Kingdom later on and joined Alabasta, because it's explained that Lily was part of the royal family of Alabasta. She was the queen of Alabasta. She had royal Alabastan blood in her veins, meaning she was Alabastan through and through, not from the Ancient Kingdom. If D really did refer to people of the Ancient Kingdom, then it would be impossible for the royal family of a totally separate kingdom to also be Ds. This means that the D connection signifies something else entirely. It's not about being part of the same family or the same tribe. It's not even about being from the Ancient Kingdom. In fact, it seems that the D connection can stretch across factions and kingdoms. So what we're really looking at here is a non-familial group of extraordinary individuals that do not have to be from the same kingdom or even the same race, who were all on the same side and who all worked together at the end of the Void Century War to send a message to the future to help bring the dawn of the world. Pretty obviously here, the answer is that the will of D is the will of Joyboy and his crew. After all, if you think about it, all of this Will of D poneglyph messaging that we've gotten, it's never actually truly been from the Ancient Kingdom. In reality, it's all been from Joyboy. The poneglyphs are his voice, his message to the future. We just initially thought that these were messages from the Ancient Kingdom as a whole, as we didn't know who the author of the poneglyphs was. But as time went on, we learned that these poneglyphs and the will being left behind is specifically Joyboy's, not the entire kingdom's. Yes, Joyboy was on the side of the Ancient Kingdom, he was the champion of the Ancient Kingdom, but ultimately it's his own specific will that's being passed down. And looking at those who still exist today who are from the Void Century era who are trying to help bring that will to fruition, it seems like they are all former members of Joyboy's crew. The Will of D is Joyboy and his crew's will. And the final piece that would make it all click together is that the reason it's been called the Will of D is because, as many have speculated before me, the name of Joyboy and his crew was very possibly the Dawn Pirates. This name makes a lot of sense for the first pirates to ever exist, the true dawn of pirates in the world. And beyond that, the name Dawn makes a lot of sense considering what Joyboy's own personal goal for the world likely was, though that is something I explain in much greater depth in this video that you can click on. And so with the Dawn Pirates, here we have an extraordinary group of people, not family, not all the same races, not even all from the Ancient Kingdom, but all bound together by a common cause, under a common banner, Joyboy and the Dawn Pirates. This finally gives us a group that logically fits with all the things we previously knew about the D. And just as this pirate crew was likely essentially a family for these original members, much like the Whitebeard Pirates are a family, or the Straw Hats are a family, it makes sense that all the members of the Dawn Pirates added that signature initial D to their names to pass down down through the ages, which is why we see that middle initial D in all these various lineages who don't seem to have any other relation in the modern world. Now, if you're skeptical, take a step back and think about how this suddenly connects all of the missing pieces and question marks that we've had regarding the Ds throughout One Piece. To begin with, the curious case of the Nefertari family. How is it that Lily, who was not at all a member of the Ancient Kingdom, who was in fact a member of the royal family of a completely different rival kingdom, Alabasta, somehow had the initial D? It's because of what Lily did after the final war was over. Even though Lily led Alabasta to fight against the Ancient Kingdom during the Void Century War, clearly Lily had a realization at the end of it, a realization that she had made a mistake and had been on the wrong side. After she had this realization, Lily seems to have actually switched over and sided with Joyboy to spread his message across the world. She was the one who scattered all the poneglyphs across the world for Joyboy. She was the one who made sure that his message would carry on into the future. Because Lily secretly switched sides and became one of Joyboy's most important allies at the very end, and in fact became the crucial piece to make the entire efforts of the Dawn Pirates to pass on their message to future generations succeed, this likely would have made Lily an honorary Dawn Pirate at the very end. Much like her descendant Vivi in the modern day was an honorary member of the Straw Hats, so too is Lily's story the very same, becoming an honorary member of the Dawn Pirates at the end of the war. Hence, the initial D was secretly added to Lily's name. That's why it's such a huge deal that Cobra revealed the truth to Imu, whereas Imu believed that what Lily did on that day, spreading the poneglyphs, was simply a mistake on her part. Cobra reveals something to Imu that Imu didn't know, that Lily was a D. This realization shocks Imu, as at this moment Imu realizes that Lily had chosen to join Joyboy's faction in the end, and it infuriates him. As such, the story of Lily is essentially proof of how the D initial works. The fact that Lily was not part of the Ancient Kingdom, was in fact on the opposite side of the Ancient Kingdom, and yet still turned out to be a D, means that being a D has no relation to being a member of the Ancient Kingdom. But at the same time, the one thing that we do know of Lily that ties her to the rest of the Will of D is the fact that she helped Joyboy in the end. All of this together strongly suggests that what the D initial actually signifies is an allegiance with Joyboy, rather than anything to do with nationality, blood, or race. As such, the simple answer is that being a member of Joyboy's crew, the Dawn Pirates, is what makes one a D, as that's the only logical answer as to how someone with no connection to the Ancient Kingdom could become part of the Will of D. This would also solve why the D-Tribe members always smile at death. Joyboy's crew would naturally have been filled with exceptional individuals, much like the Straw Hats. Joyboy's crew of course wouldn't fear death, and would likely smile in the face of it. And so symbolically, the descendants of these extraordinary individuals who carry that same blood in their veins also carry that same trait of smiling in the face of death. This makes a lot more sense than just all of the random citizens of the Ancient Kingdom being Ds, and literally every citizen of the Ancient Kingdom being so extraordinary that they and all of their lineage for centuries to come all smile when they die. The original Ds being a more small, select group of extraordinary individuals, aka Joyboy's crew, is much more reasonable. This would also solve the curious case of Oden, who died in the same manner as a D-Tribe member, with a smile on his face because Oden is likely the descendant of a Dawn Pirate. See, this moment where Oden smiled at death, it led a lot of people to question whether Oden was secretly a D, even though the D initial is not in his name. This moment makes a lot of sense as soon as we understand that D simply means being a descendant of the Dawn Pirates. Because guess what? It's overwhelmingly likely that Joyboy had a Kazuki on his crew. Why is that? Because the poneglyphs in the first place were made by the Kazuki. The Kazuki worked hand in hand with Joyboy to write the Will of D, meaning it's likely Joyboy had at least one of the original Kazuki clan members on his crew. Or alternatively, at the very least, he would have made a Kazuki member an honorary member of his pirate crew after they helped him at the end of the war, similar to Lily. And while it seems that the D initial didn't officially end up being passed down through the Kazuki line, that doesn't matter since the actual initial is simply symbolic. What makes you a D is being a descendant of one of the extraordinary Dawn Pirates. As Oden is a descendant of the Kazuki line, going all the way back to the original Kazuki clan member who was Joyboy's ally and likely a part of the Dawn Pirates, of course Oden would have the trademark D smile upon death. And just like that, the mysterious smile of Oden upon death is solved. He had a D smile despite not having a D initial. Because what matters is that he had the blood of a Dawn Pirate within him, the blood of the Kazuki who was on Joyboy's crew. So you see the trend starting to develop here, the Kazuki who created the poneglyphs, likely a member of Joyboy's crew. Oden being a descendant of him is why Oden has the D smile. Nefertari Lily, who spread the poneglyphs around the world, was likely made an honorary member of Joyboy's crew in the end. explaining why she was a D despite factually not being related in any way to the Ancient Kingdom. This also connects one last missing piece, which is the evil D lineage that seems to exist. We see with Rox and with Blackbeard that there are those with the will of D who seem to be more sinister. They are not the ones Roger believed can fulfill Joyboy's will. It seems possible that Vegapunk was even warning the D tribe members of today about the existence of an evil D member. This would make a lot of sense if you look at the parallel to Joyboy and his crew, which was Oden and his scabbards. I've already broken this down ad nauseum in other videos, but Joyboy's story parallels Oden's story very explicitly. In short, both were the first pirate from their respective kingdoms, both of them were the champions who defended their respective kingdoms when an enemy force attacked, both of their defeats marked the downfall of their respective kingdoms, both of them left behind a will to one day bring the dawn to their respective kingdoms that was passed down through the years. Both of them entrusted their subordinates to help carry out this will in the future. It's very, very blatantly the same exact storyline. Oda could not be any more explicit with it. This is just a classic thing Oda often does, where he uses storylines from the endgame of One Piece to heavily influence earlier story arcs that he writes, and he makes the parallels and inspirations very on the nose. If you want a more in-depth breakdown, I talk about it at much greater length in this video that you can click on. But the point is that Oden's story is beat for beat inspired by Joyboy's story. And who did Oden have amongst his trusted followers? Amongst Oden's scabbards was one traitor, Kanjuro. There was a Judas in their midst. I'm willing to bet that similarly among the Dawn Pirates, Joyboy's trusted crew, there was a similar evil figure. This figure may have even been a factor as to why Joyboy and the Dawn Pirates lost the war. Perhaps this figure acted for selfish purposes, who knows. But the fact is, there's an evil D legacy that's been left behind, first pursued by Rox and then by his successor, Blackbeard. Interesting food for thought, especially because this gives us insight into what the Void Century flashback might be like. And here's where it gets really, really interesting, which is the single most important purpose of all this emphasis on the D tribe. See, the D tribe being the Dawn Pirates is what will actually make the entire Void Century flashback work in terms of storytelling. What do I mean by that? Well, we all know that the Void Century flashback is going to be fairly extensive, longer than Oden's even. But the problem is that it has to feature a bunch of unfamiliar characters. I mean, especially if the D tribe was just a bunch of random characters in the Ancient Kingdom, or even like the Ancient Kingdom's royal family. We don't know any of those guys. It would feel like we're being dropped into a totally unknown setting with unknown characters, for like 20 chapters. In Oden's flashback, we at least knew and were familiar with almost all the characters, except for Oden himself. But if the original Ds that we'll be following in the Void Century flashback is actually going to be Joyboy and his crew, the Dawn Pirates, well then suddenly the entire Void Century flashback has a clear grounding center. We'll be reading about the ancestors of all the D tribe members that we know today on the same crew. Think about how exciting that is. A crew with Joyboy and Law's ancestor, and Ace and Roger's ancestor, and Saul's ancestor, and Oden's ancestor, and yes, even Blackbeard's ancestor. Imagine that. Just as Kalgara was to Wiper, we'll get to follow the ancient versions of all of these beloved characters of today. That makes the Void Century flashback so much more exciting, because we will actually be invested in all of these characters and this crew from the start. It will all feel very familiar, just different variants of the characters we already know and love, all on the same crew. That allows Oda to actually tell a lengthy story around this brand new cast without readers feeling strange or alienated. The Void Century Straw Hats were essentially the ancestors of all of these other fan-favorite characters. And guess what? That's also likely why Oda specifically chose to not make any of the modern-day Straw Hats Ds themselves, besides Luffy. Why? Because the whole point is that the crew of today, the Straw Hats, should be a new crew, carving out their own legacy. Not just the descendants or modern versions of the Dawn Pirates of old, the Straw Hats are their own thing. So the will of D was simply the will of the Dawn Pirates. It's the will of Joyboy and his crew that we've been learning about all this time, and that is going to become more and more clear as the final saga goes on. So let me know if you believe that's the answer to the will of D in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video then definitely like and subscribe.